The interim presidency of Captain Ibrahim Traoré is scheduled to conclude on July 1, 2024. However, despite his initial promise to hold fresh elections when he assumed power in October 2022, the will of the people has become clear. Rather than desiring elections or a new leader, thousands of individuals have taken to the streets, passionately demanding that Ibrahim Traoré remains in power. This revolutionary Pan-African spirit is spreading from the capital city of Ouagadougou to activists across the Sahel region. In this video, you will witness the incredible efforts made by Ibrahim Traoré to transform Burkina Faso. From agricultural advancements and mining reforms to acquiring new weapons and forging alliances, you will understand why the people are insistent on retaining this patriotic leader and why their voices are not being broadcasted by the West. Today, we will be the voice that amplifies their message. The recent unrest in Burkina Faso was ignited by an unprecedented rally on May 11, 2024, at the municipal stadium in Ouagadougou. It was an extraordinary scene as thousands of citizens gathered, accompanied by activists from neighboring Mali and Niger, to participate in this historic demonstration. The resounding chant that reverberated through the crowds left no room for ambiguity. They did not want to hear about another president and rejected the idea of elections. Their unwavering demand was for Captain Ibrahim Traoré to continue leading the nation. At first glance, it may seem paradoxical that Africans are advocating for a military ruler instead of an elected civilian leader. However, upon closer examination of Traoré's remarkable achievements during his 2 years at the helm, the rationale behind their fervent support becomes abundantly clear. Ibrahim Traoré has spearheaded an agricultural renaissance, reigniting pride in Burkina Faso's rich farming heritage. Drawing inspiration from the legendary Thomas Sankara, he initiated 2 monumental programs: the Agro-Pastoral Offensive and the Presidential Initiative for Food Self-Sufficiency, aiming to catalyze a revolution in food production. The results have been truly remarkable. A nation once told that certain crops like wheat could never thrive in its soil is now proudly exporting that very commodity. In February 2024, Ibrahim Traoré secured a crucial injection of 38 million euros from the African Development Bank to strengthen emergency agricultural efforts. Just a month later, an unprecedented amount of 78 billion CFA francs was invested in procuring new tractors, seeds, and fertilizers. As Bisenga Babaya from the National Coordination of Citizens Watch Associations eloquently expressed, for over 60 years, we were made to believe that wheat could not be produced here. But today, with Ibrahim Traoré at the helm, we proudly stand as a wheat exporting nation. However, Traoré's transformative agenda extended beyond revitalizing agriculture. In a bold move, he prohibited all gold exports, aiming to restructure and regain control over this crucial sector that had long been plagued by opaque and exploitative mining deals. By eliminating predatory middlemen, Traoré oversaw the establishment of Burkina Faso's first ever gold refinery and a state-of-the-art mining waste processing facility. This groundbreaking development allowed ordinary Burkinabés to directly benefit from their nation's mineral wealth through decent job opportunities in gold refining and processing within their own borders. Unsurprisingly, Traoré's administration earned an impressive governance rating, a remarkable achievement for a military leader. Leveraging his expertise in security matters, Traoré inherited a nation plagued by the scourge of Islamist militancy. He swiftly reinforced Burkina Faso's armed forces with new weapons, equipment, and gear, bolstering their capabilities. Through strategic contacts with Russia and joint Sahel military forces, Traoré facilitated crucial training programs and intelligence sharing. After years of primarily defending towns and villages, the reinvigorated Burkinabé military was finally able to take the offensive against terrorist elements, prioritizing the safety of the people and the defense of the nation's sovereignty. However, It was not just the grand, sweeping initiatives that endeared Traoré to the masses. It was his principled and selfless acts that struck a profound chord with ordinary Burkinabés. His refusal to accept the presidential salary, following in the footsteps of the legendary Sankara, resonated deeply. Similarly, his commitment to reducing the exorbitant wages of self-serving politicians was celebrated by the long-suffering population. For too long, the people of Burkina Faso had endured the oppression of corrupt and greedy elites who enriched themselves while the majority suffered in poverty. With Traoré at the helm, a new era of accountability and leading by example emerged, a leader who truly embodied his values. Therefore, when the interim president announced consultations in May to discuss the continuation of the transition and the upcoming elections, a patriotic firestorm erupted across the nation. The news of the planned meeting between civil society groups, political parties, and military representatives in Ouagadougou on May 25th and 26th quickly spread. Officially, the agenda was to assess progress and decide on the next steps leading up to the conclusion of the transition on July 1st. However, grassroots movements, inspired by Traoré's remarkable accomplishments, had different plans altogether. They mobilized monumental demonstrations, solidifying the unwavering demand of the sovereign people. Captain Traoré must remain in power. The ongoing transition had only just begun the process of reviving Burkina Faso's agriculture, industry, and long-forgotten national pride. Prominent figures like Rasmain Sow, the coordinator of the Black African Defense League, rallied supporters with resolute warnings, emphasizing that any attack on the event would be considered an assault on Traoré's government and the sovereign people. They made it clear that such actions would be met with the strongest response. A palpable revolutionary fervor, driven by a pan-African wind of change, swept across the Sahel as diverse voices united behind Captain Traoré's principled nationalism and tangible progress. Surprisingly, the Western mainstream media maintained a complicit silence, providing no coverage whatsoever of these momentous events unfolding in Ouagadougou. Outlets like CNN, BBC, and others chose to ignore the pro-Traoré demonstrations. One can only speculate on the starkly different response had the protests called for Traoré's removal from power. The hypocritical Western media would undoubtedly have dedicated unlimited airtime, sanctimoniously lecturing about restoring democracy while offering carefully selected platforms to opposition figures of their choosing. Their calculated blackout of the Ouagadougou rallies exposes their insidious agenda of controlling the narrative and actively destabilizing any African leader who prioritizes the genuine needs of their people over Western corporate interests and resource exploitation. Whether democratically elected or not, any patriotic African government striving for food security, combating exploitative mining practices, and boldly confronting terrorist threats is perceived as a threat to Western hegemony. Consequently, these leaders are either ignored or undermined by leveraging the West's monopoly over global media flows. However, we will persist in amplifying African voices, demanding that Captain Ibrahim Traoré remains in power to continue his transformative work, leading Burkina Faso towards self-reliance and dignity. The Burkinabé citizens have added their united voices to this cause. As the pivotal national consultations approach on May 25th and 26th, the representatives of civil society, political groups, and Traoré's military establishment face a crucial decision. Will they listen to the overwhelming calls from the Burkinabé citizens? Or will they turn a deaf ear to the people's pleas and proceed with elections, potentially installing yet another Western-backed puppet or stooge, akin to the corrupt and self-serving civilian regimes that subjugated Burkina Faso for over 60 years before Traoré assumed leadership? The trajectory of this resurgent nation hangs in the balance as the outcome of the upcoming consultations approaches. We will diligently monitor the developments, providing comprehensive updates and insightful analysis. However, the resounding message from the populace has already been made abundantly clear through unprecedented demonstrations. From farmers rejoicing in the revival of agriculture to miners finally reaping their rightful rewards, from youth tired of the relentless terrorist threat to elders yearning for dignity, the people of Burkina Faso have tasted the fruits of Traoré's patriotic progress. They have caught a glimpse of a future that is self-sufficient and secure, liberated from the ceaseless neo-colonial exploitation of their abundant resources. It is hard to believe that they would willingly return to the dark days of rigged elections and compromised civilian politicians who systematically sold their country's interests to foreign powers. The idea of Captain Traoré relinquishing power seems unfathomable given the overwhelming outpouring of popular support. From the rural heartlands of farming communities to the bustling urban centers of mining hubs, his transformative vision has struck a chord. The agricultural renaissance, the responsible management of mineral wealth, the bolstered security, and the reclaimed sovereignty. These achievements deeply resonate with a population weary of empty promises. For far too long, Burkina Faso's vast riches have been pillaged and looted by corporate raiders and their political accomplices, disguised in the trappings of democracy. Traoré's resolute measures to halt illicit gold exports and establish domestic refining capabilities mark a seismic paradigm shift. No longer will the nation's precious resources be spirited away in their raw form, their true value drained before reaching the hands of the Burkinabe people. Instead, this generational injustice is being reversed, paving the way for sustainable jobs and an economic resurgence rooted in dignity and self-sufficiency. It is no wonder, then, that citizens from all walks of life have rallied behind Captain Traoré's vision. We invite you to share your thoughts in the comment section below.